There's another, I want to sneak in one quick other tool that I know that so this is something you've been big on, and then save time to just talk a little bit about your path into public service. But that's performance-based budgeting. It's another tool that you've used. You talked a little bit
Yeah.
a second ago, and something Jen and I also talked about this. We sometimes spend so much time thinking about getting new legislation or new orders passed, but it's the implementation and the evaluating cycle
Yeah.
that needs to happen. It's a little bit less sexy, but it's actually probably, is if not more important in terms of actually getting results. So how has that worked out for your city and the performance-based budgeting stuff?
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think that hugely important, and we're still in the early stages of it. When I came into this office 2 years ago, we had a big matrix with a hodgepodge of different priorities. I think there were 42 or so different cards on this matrix, and they were really disconnected. It was kind of like the NFL draft. Like every elected official, every council member got to pick a few priorities and throw them in the pot. Through my first budget, and I want to thank my council colleagues for supporting this approach, we wiped that slate clean, and we came back and said, we're going to start, informed by what the residents are telling us, resident surveys, with our top. I was trying to make it 3. We ended up with 4, which is fine. I told them no more than 5.
That's pretty good, actually. That's really good.
Yeah, our top 4 priorities, and these we're going to elevate over everything else. So we still need to mow the lawns in the parks. We still need to run our airport efficiently. The wastewater treatment plant still needs to run. There's a lot of other city services that we are not candidates for transformation today for whatever reason. They're not top priority for us to go try to radically transform. We're happy if they get 1 or 2% better every year. But there are a few things where we need to get significantly better, maybe 10% a year better. And that's going to take real focus and innovation. And it's going to be uncomfortable. We're going to have to try a lot of new things. And we're going to make mistakes. And so we carved off these focus areas, and they're, ending unsheltered homelessness. No one should live outside in a tent. Bringing down crime rates, improving public perception of crime, and becoming the safest big city in the country once again. That's actually a moniker we had in the 90s. The third is clean and beautiful neighborhoods. And a lot of that is public perception that you have to figure out how to drive. And then third is a better place, an easier place to invest in jobs and housing. So that gets into things like permitting and zoning and all of our rules and fees and all these things. So from those priorities, we have distilled North Star goals. How do we measure success? What is the actual metric that's the outcome we care about? And maybe it's a few things. And then what are the inputs? What are the things that we can do on the city side in terms of speeding up permitting or improving our police response or leveraging alternative response to 911 calls or planting more trees for beautification or automating our reporting of potholes and graffiti? I mean, on and on and on. You can imagine all the hypotheses you have and then saying, okay, let's program the budget around our hypotheses, i.e. the programs and procedures that we will prioritize and fund to move the needle toward an outcome. And let's come back every 30 days and look at the data and say, what are we learning? Are the things we're doing actually in any measurable way moving us closer to the goal, or are we just treading water or even going backwards? And so that's the kind of transparency and feedback loop and sort of culture of continuous learning that I'm trying to bring from my experience building tech startups into a big and fairly bureaucratic city hall. And I have to say, we've got a lot of partners inside the building who see that vision and want to be part of that kind of transformation.
Well, that's such a great segue to kind of how you got into public service. But I mean, I'm just going to say this. There's a little parallel about what you just said and what's happening on the federal government with somebody who's, a tech entrepreneur thinking about reforming government. So it can't not be pointed out.
I've been hearing a lot of that in recent weeks.
Yeah, the way you're talking about it, however, I have to say is very different. And the way that we're talking about thinking about outcomes first, and then talking about how you go about making government. Right. Nobody should be about not being on the side of government reform, efficiency, effectiveness, absolutely. But it doesn't really feel like that's what's happening on the federal level. I just have to say that out loud.
Well, I'm with you in the sense that I don't understand why in this administration. Well, I guess I understand why, but I think it's more politics than actual problem solving. It seems like, we're going to target people we don't like and just zero out their line item. To the point you made, I think very astutely, there needs to be a theory of change, a logic to it. What are we trying to achieve? And then how do we optimize what we're doing to achieve that better outcome for the community? That needs to be the framework for this.